I know I've said this before, but you never do know quite what to expect from this game. After all this time waiting, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has finally brought in a newcomer from Xenoblade Chronicles 2. But instead of Rex, the Aegis herself has left her driver on the sidelines and personally entered the fray. Built around the clearest case of a stance system we've seen in Smash yet, our newest DLC fighter swaps between the kind yet self-doubting Pyra and the confident yet abrasive Mythra to outmatch anyone who gets in their way. But there's more to these two aspects of one drifting soul than meets the eye. So until Sakurai goes into depth in just a few days from now, let's break down our new edition's moveset as seen in the reveal trailer to see what moves they have and what counterattacks they can launch. And if you're from the future after they've already been added, maybe you'll get a kick out of seeing if my power of foresight was any accurate. Without further ado, let's begin. We'll start with this clip of what appears to be Pyra's forward tilt. Despite being a tilt, it's very slow to come out, around frame 17 or 18 based on the footage, but it has enough sheer range to make up for it, effortlessly outspacing Richter's dash attack. Pyra also steps forward during the animation to give it even more reach, and since there's a rise to the actual sword slash, it may also catch low crouches. Meanwhile, here's Mythra's slightly faster counterpart. Or is it? In fact, these are two separate animations. Pyra's attack is a rising slash, while Mythra's comes down. Pyra and Mythra are meant to have the same animations on their A-button moves. So, what is this? We know they can't be smash attacks since all of those appear in the trailer. So I think this is actually Mythra's jab finisher. Not that we can tell much about it from this clip alone, but hey. Moving on, here's Pyra's up tilt, an awkward overhead swing from back to front. Another unusually slow tilt at around frame 13, it's another huge hitbox ideal for catching jumping opponents. And since Pyra ducks down during the swing, it's even harder to hit her during it than it looks. Should be good for soft read anti-air stuff, though we'd need to know how well it combos her kills to judge its true potential. How about something not so slow? Mythra's down tilt comes out at light speed, or close enough. Frame 5 or 6 is impressive for a disjoint. Its combo potential is also on full display in the trailer, easily leading into other moves on hit, and cementing it as probably a staple part of her neutral. The only downside? The sound effect that plays on hit in the trailer sounds like a Marth sour spot, implying this move will not deal much damage on its own. Shows just how big a difference there is between Mythra's speed and Pyra's power, which is also on full display with their forward smashes. A powerful two-handed slash that impacts the ground and even ignites it if Pyra's in control. This move's sure to be dreaded if it's as strong as it looks, though Pyra's version will also need to rely on mind games as it hits on frame 23 or 24, while Mythra's is a much brisker frame 13 or 14. Mythra's is also significantly weaker based on the footage, and if you look closer, there's another difference. During Pyra's version, a plume of flaming ether energy extends from beyond the tip of her sword to increase its reach, something Mythra's version doesn't have. This means that not only are Pyra's attacks stronger than Mythra's, at least some also have better range. Should help offset her worse frame data more than damage and knockback alone would. Meanwhile, we caught a quick glimpse of Mythra's up smash in this clip, a surprisingly elegant sword spin above her head. Ladies and gentlemen, we might have another up smash that lasts as long as Robin's. It doesn't seem to reach that far up, but it's so active that it'll have use nonetheless. It also makes me wonder about Pyra's version. How much bigger is it? Will it last even longer from her spinning her sword more slowly? Then we got a clip of Pyra's down smash here, where she spins like a figure skater and slashes in a circle to cover both sides. It's a move that does typical down smash things, and it's unusually fast for a smash attack by Pyra's standards, hitting on around frame 13 in front. Though since the sword is raised up a little during the animation, the super low crouches might be able to go under it. Now we have the pair's aerials, starting with a vertical circle spin for Pyra's neutral air that looks kinda like Byleth's, but look closer and you'll see the differences. The actual attack starts behind Pyra instead of in front, it has more range than Byleth's while active but doesn't last as long, and it's also notably slow for a neutral air at about frame 11 or 12. While it might have unique combo or KO options, I imagine Mythra's version and its quicker startup will be much more useful. Pyra's forward air shows up twice in the trailer, this rising slash performed with a twirl. At frame 13 or 14, it's pretty slow, but also looks to have a lot of range and seems quite powerful. So, typical Pyra fare. Which her back air continues. This rising semicircular slash with a backflip is similar to her forward air, with a larger vertical arc but less forward reach and seemingly slightly more startup. The way both aerials come up from below means they'll be good at catching approaches if used immediately out of a jump, but might not work as well for offensive pressure while landing. Enough of Pyra alone, as we saw both halves of the Aegis use their up air. Pyra's hits around frame 11 and with enhanced range that gives it a massive hitbox. You can clearly see fire coming out of the sword's tip here. Mythra's is much faster at around frame 7, and its reach is still good, but not so absurd. Seems like we might have an Ike or Crom up air depending on which form is out, but we won't know how well they work for combos or killing off the top for a while longer. And the down air, oh boy. Pyra's version is the very first move we saw in the gameplay, and if it's out on frame 25 or 26 like the footage suggests, it'll be the slowest down air in the game. But its hitbox is massive and likely strong enough to command respect. Mythra's version is more normal, out around frame 13 with pretty pedestrian knockback and around 11 to 12 frames of landing lag, which is pretty low for a disjointed down air. If I had to guess, Pyra's version will have a very powerful spike on the one frame where the sword is pointed straight down, like with Lucina's down air, while Mythra's won't spike ever, but will have use as a low percent combo starter. Finally, this clip also gave us a glimpse of Mythra's back throw. It's nothing special, just a simple back kick, but this does at least show us that the duo has a standard grab animation. Now for the part where their movesets diverge. Pyra and Mythra's special attacks are where they define their separate identities as fighters, and all are based directly on their blade specials from their game. Let's start with Flame Nova, first to appear in the trailer and likely Pyra's neutral special, a long-lasting spin attack that traps and scorches foes repeatedly before sending them flying. The clip seems to have a charge animation at the start, though exactly what charging does is unclear. More range, more hits, or just more knockback. Based on what we see, it looks like it'll be useful for tech chasing and reading opponents' ledge options. Might also have use off stage, depending on how strong its knockback gets and if Pyra hangs in midair while using it. Next is the probable side special, Blazing End, where Pyra sidearms her sword forward until it hits Captain Falcon and starts spinning vertically for another multi-hit trap. The sword stays in place afterward as Pyra jumps forward to retrieve it, and you can tell it's regular movement and not part of the attack since Pyra walks forward a little before the jump. Which makes me wonder, does she have to manually pick up her sword afterward before she can attack again? Or will it return to her eventually and picking it up just lets her get it back faster? Either way, this will be good for landing traps and ledge pressure, and possibly also zone breaking if it's able to overpower projectiles. Pyra's up special is Prominence Revolt, a rising sword uppercut leading into a downward plunge. It's a simple up and down recovery move similar to Mii Sword Fighter's Stone Scabbard. We can't actually tell how good this will be at recovering since the clip doesn't show if Pyra can move left or right during it and at what point you can grab ledges. It might also have use as an out-of-shield punish. We don't know how fast it is since the clip cuts in mid-startup, but the potential is there. And if I had to guess, the down special is how you swap between Pyra and Mythra, just like with Pokemon Trainer. The trailer points out that you can switch between them whenever you want, as long as you know you're not in hit stun, so swapping between their two distinct roles will be a key part of using them. Unlike Pokemon Trainer, Pyra and Mythra maintain their aerial momentum when they switch in midair, which should make it more useful in disadvantage. Though based on the animation, they might take a few frames to become intangible, making it harder to cheese your way out of stuff with it. That's Pyra accounted for, but what about Mythra's specials? Her apparent neutral special is Lightning Buster, a multi-hit combo attack in the vein of Cross Slash. The trailer is much clearer about this one being chargeable, which is why I think Flame Nova has a charge as well, symmetry and all that. This move seems to play a similar purpose in catching get-up options or intercepting recoveries, and since it hits so far in front of Mythra, it's very hard to beat out. But it also leaves her back wide open, something Flame Nova does not do. Mythra must have heard all the griping over cutscene combos, because Photon Edge makes it happen with one move. The very start has a short dash that looks like it has to connect to proc the full attack, but if it hits, any opponents in range are subjected to a 6-hit self-contained combo that carries them across the stage. Big, flashy, and bound to be something low-level players fish for, its actual effectiveness will depend on how much damage it does and if it's capable of netting knockouts, and how risky it is to use. Would not be surprised if you go into freefall afterward, meaning you'd have to be very careful not to fly off stage with it to your own death. Mythra's recovery move starts with a similar uppercut to Pyra's, but instead of coming back down, Ray of Punishment has her fire an ether projectile from her sword instead. The projectile does seem to be a true follow-up based on the clip, though the knockback shown isn't that great. But this move also has an enhanced version, Chroma Dust, based on one of Mythra's blade specials from the Torna DLC. This 5-projectile spread shot has much more coverage and greater knockback. And we have no idea how you activate it. Does it involve an extra button press? Do you need to hold B at some point instead of pressing it? And how effective are both versions for recovering? We don't know yet. Then there's Mythra's Power of Foresight. But where does this fit in if every special slot is already accounted for? Well, I think this is actually a built-in property of Mythra's dodge animations, sort of like Bat Within. I think if she gets touched during the very beginning of her dodges, Foresight kicks in and slows down whoever activated it temporarily while the dodge animation happens, giving Mythra additional time afterward to get out of the way, or maybe throw out something fast to turn the tables if she dodged something with a lot of lag on it. This will probably have something keeping it in check. Maybe like with Bayonetta, the actual intangible parts of the dodges kick in notably late and make her notably easy to grab. Or maybe her actual rolls and directional air dodges don't go very far. And finally, the pair's final smashes, as Rex jumps in to assist Pyra or Mythra with their respective level 4 blade specials. Pyra uses Burning Sword to create a massive pillar of flame, while Mythra invokes Sacred Arrow to call down a barrage of light from above. Interestingly, both moves start as cinematics with the same background as Shulk's chain attack, but as soon as the moves get going, they cut back to the stage and the actual attacks show up there. So, what can we expect then? Let's take everything we know now about Pyra and Mythra's moveset from the reveal trailer and try to fill in the gaps as best we can and predict what their overall playstyle will be like once they're made available. Built around seamlessly shifting like a sword fighter changing stances, they pivot constantly between two common sword archetypes. Pyra leans on slower, heftier attacks with enough range and power to intimidate stubbier fighters and command respect. Mythra uses her superior mobility and frame data to rush opponents down and overwhelm them. But as they both have strong points, they also have their own downsides. Pyra has average to mediocre mobility coupled with seemingly some of the worst frame data in the game, while Mythra's seemingly low damage output makes her reliant on stringing attacks together just to keep pace, and I wouldn't be shocked if her overall kill power was among the worst in the game. I also wouldn't be shocked if the two of them have different weight values. Could see Pyra as a middleweight or potentially a cruiserweight like Min Min, and not just because of that one cutscene where Rex has trouble lifting her, while Mythra is a lightweight closer to Peach or Sonic. These two are gonna have a learning curve, one based more on knowledge than mechanical skill. Using them optimally will require getting familiar with where and when they're strongest or weakest, and learning when to favor one or the other based on the matchup or situation. Being the driver of the Aegis requires understanding how to best utilize them. On the other hand, fighting against them will be about tailoring your game plan to best exploit the weak points of whoever's currently out, using faster attacks to outpace Pyra, using stronger attacks to outtrade Mythra and kill her first, etc. You'll also want to focus on any weaknesses they share, like a potentially linear recovery that could fall apart if either gets hit out of their double jump. We'll see how close I get. Ended up pretty on the mark with Sephiroth's playstyle, even if I was way off on his weight. Overall, Pyra and Mythra are another interesting addition to a roster that somehow keeps finding unique choices. With their dynamic fighting style, mastery over fire and light, and some good old-fashioned swordplay, they bring a presence in battle that ensures you will recall their names. And you thought I was done with the song references. For now, we're also left wondering how their challenger pack will play out. Will their stage be competitively legal so we can have Xenoblade music in tournaments? How will their spirit board play around the fact that most major characters from their game who have official art have spirits already? Will they do the smart thing and sneak the Torna DLC battle theme into the music list? And who might show up in these final two DLC spots now that we're starting to wind things down? Who all are you guys expecting, or hoping, we'll get? I'm guessing we'll see one more moderately notable guest fighter around E3, and then a relevant/unique first party at the end. Special thanks for this video to these people here. Extra thanks to my patrons for their continued support, especially with how weird things have been lately. So, until next time, all we can do is still move forward. No way to go back to where we used to be. Okay, now I'm done.